Hello, I'm Will, this is Mike, we're the Tabletop Donkeys.
Hello.
And in this video we'll be looking at issue 3 of Warhammer Age of Sigmar Stormbringer magazine. This issue came with 5 Vindictor models for the Stormcast Eternals. As usual we'll be looking through the magazine first, then getting on to the gaming section where we'll be learning the rules for the Vindictors and playing our game. First up, we have some information about the Realm of Beasts, one of the 8 mortal realms, as we learned in the previous issue. This one shaped by the magic of beasts. It's also called Gur, or Gur, if you prefer, which is probably appropriate. And it takes on much of the character of that Wind of Magic, so it's full of huge monsters. It's a wild and dangerous land, although also full of many great opportunities for the brave adventurer. It mentions here that it's particularly famous for its trade in exotic meats that are hunted and then brought to the rest of the mortal realms as delicacies. And a bit more about it here. As it says, yes, a land of monsters, so it's full of all sorts of creatures, like the one that is shown there. And war in the Realm of Beasts is pretty much constant, partly because of all the various bestial factions fighting over it, but also just because it infuses those there with a savagery and rage, just due to its character, which lends itself to quick tempers and conflict. Now we begin something called Monsters of Gur, which is actually a sort of insetting account by an ordinary human of the mortal realms describing the various monsters of the Realm of Beasts. And then over the page 2 of the great monsters, so the Maw Crushers, which are huge, very stupid and extremely aggressive creatures that despite their enormous bulk can still fly, and are sometimes used by the most fierce of the Orc bosses as mounts. And the Carnosaur, which is effectively a sort of large dinosaur, carnivorous creature that is extremely dangerous when wild, but the Seraphon, or the lizard people, have managed to tame some of them and use them as mounts as well. Then we have the Stormcast Vindictors. These are line infantry of the Stormcast Thunderstrike Brotherhood, wearing the special Thunderstrike armour. As with our previous units, you can give a name to the Vindictor Prime, and we rolled for ours, and we'll show you that later when we show the models. And another table for their unit traits and an epithet, and their deeds as well. And also a more general Stormcast name generator like we had for the Kruleboss in the previous ones. You can roll on this to name individual Stormcast models. And there's also some hero surnames and unit names over the page. And then we have the build guide for the Vindictors. Like all of our previous models, these are pushed together, so you don't need any glue, although again, glue can be helpful. So they go together fairly straightforward. And there's the rest of them there. There are alternate build options you can make with this kit. You can make a male prime. It tells you to make the female one here. It doesn't mention that here, but it does say that you will have spare heads. So to keep those, and you could use them for a future modelling project, for example, just in case you're confused if there are any extra pieces. But that's it for the contents of this issue. So now I'll be handing you over to Mike, who will teach us some new rules and take us into our game.
So as usual, we're covering some more of the basics of playing the game. This is going on how to use dice. It's all a bit self-explanatory, but if you've never played any kind of war game at all, it should be useful. So obviously we use 6-sided dice, also called D6. So if something says roll 2d6, you roll 2 dice. Then sometimes you might be called to roll a d3, and in that case you roll the dice and then halve the result and round up. So a 1 or a 2 on the dice becomes a 1, 3 or 4 becomes a 2, 5 or 6 becomes a 3, and then sometimes you might be allowed to re-roll a die, but you must accept the second result even if the first result was better. And on the next page is more things to do with dice, so sometimes if you're called to do a roll-off, both players just pick up a dice and roll, and whoever's the highest wins. If it's a tie, you just roll again. Sometimes you might be able to modify the result of a die roll, so you just look at the result and then apply the modifier. And then a bit of etiquette here regarding stray dice, so if a dice falls off the table or out of the gaming area or ends up cocked on a bit of terrain or a model, it's usually polite to just re-roll that. Next topic we're learning about today are Warscrolls. This is the way that information about units is displayed in Age of Sigmar. So you can see an example here for the Knight-Arcanum. It has lots of information on it. So we have the name of the unit it represents, also a picture of them on the right. We have the little 4 segments. Here we can see how many wounds a Knight-Arcanum has, as well as the save they have. And then it also lists a unit's weapons. So she has a Vindictor stave, which has 3 attack dice and hits on 3s and wounds on 4s. And you can see a little sneak preview there of the full Warscroll for the Knight-Arcanum. Obviously we'll learn about that in a later issue. And on the next page, it's going over the attack sequence, so we've learned about that in the previous issues, but it's how to use the Warscrolls as part of the attack sequence. So when a unit is chosen to attack, you select what weapon they're going to use, If your unit has multiple weapons, you do each weapon type one at a time. Knight-Arcanum only has her stave, so she'll use that. 3 attack dice hitting on 3s, wounds on 4s. Then the opponent checks the save characteristic on their Warscrolls. So the killer boss here has a 3+ save, and they make their saving throws, and then any failed saves result in a wound being placed on the unit being attacked. So that's just condensing what we've learnt in the previous issues. And then we can get on to today's game, Border Skirmish, where the Knight-Arcanum is continuing to explore the ruins and obviously wants to try and take hold of them. Clearly there's something important here, so she has received some Vindictor reinforcements, whereas the killer boss has linked up with his Gut Rippers and are going to try and stop the Stormcast. So we have the Knight-Arcanum and 2 Vindictors facing off against the killer boss with his Stab Grot and 3 Gut Rippers. And you can see deploying there we have the Knight-Arcanum and the 2 Vindictors on one side, each in their own circle, and they're opposite the Gut Rippers and the Killer Boss and Stab Grot respectively, and we'll start off by moving them into position like in the previous issues. And once again we have a step-by-step sequence, so the Knight-Arcanum gets to start first. Give you a close-up of her Warscroll we'll be using there. I'm not going to go over the whole thing, I'll just give you a look at the Warscrolls. It'll be fairly self-explanatory in the game. So the Gut Rippers go after the Knight-Arcanum. Then the Vindictors get to go, and you can see they have a 3+ save. They have their Storm Spears, which have 2 attack dice hitting on 3s and wounding on 3s. And finally we can see the Killer Boss's Warscroll. So he looks fairly similar to before, he's got a 3+ save, 6 wounds. He has 4 attacks with his Boss Hacker that hit on 3s and wound on 3s. And he has his Stab Grot with him this time, who has a prize Shiv, which has 3 attacks hitting on 4s and wounding on 4s. So this is a unit with 2 different weapon types, so you will resolve all of the attacks from one before moving on to the other. If this seems complicated, hopefully we'll clear it up as we'll get into the game. So we're straight into the board. You can see down the bottom I have Morleck and Knight-Biter the Stab Grot on the left, and the Murkai and 2 of the Storm Chasers on the right. And Morleck is facing off against Lyria and one of her Guardians, so the Vindictors are Lyria's Guardians, and Murkai and the 2 Storm Chasers are going to have another go at Knight-Arcanum Borea Starfang. The first thing we do is we move into the middle. Technically it says the Stormcast do it first, but it's not going to make too much difference. So here you can see our 2 little skirmishes. Borea gets to strike first, as per the tutorial.
So obviously we have the information on our Warscroll, but it's actually the same as before. It's just 3 attacks hitting on 3s, which hit twice, and wounding on 4s. She wounded once.
5+ save for the Gut Rippers. Oh, I made it. They remember to wear their armour today, so they get to strike back. So as it says on their Warscroll, they have 2 attacks with their Wicked Stickers, but there's 3 of them, so that's 6 attacks on 4s. Getting 3, and wounding on 4s. Only getting 1.
But Borea does have a 3+ save. She had a 4+ in the previous issue, but she'll have a 3+ from now on, which I've made.
Now in the other fight, the Vindictors get to go first. I didn't mention it before, but in this game, the Stab Grot dies with the boss. They just count as 1 model.
Lyria and her companion each have 2 attacks, which hit on 3s. They all hit, and they also wound on 3s. Oh, they all wound.
We're off to a good start. 3+ save for Morleck. We failed 2, so he's down to 4 wounds. But now he gets to strike back. He has 4 attacks with his Boss Hacker on 3s, getting 2 hits. And wounding on 3s, getting 2 wounds.
And Vindictors also have a 3+ armour save. But they failed both, so that will be 2 damage, which will kill one of them.
Yep, they only have 2 wounds each. And then Knight-Biter has 3 attacks with his Shiv, hitting on 4s. He only gets 1, and he wounds on a 4. He doesn't wound. And that's the end of the first turn. Stalemate on the right, but Morleck is wounded, but takes down one of the Vindictors on the left. Now we'll start again with Borea.
3 attacks on 3s. All hit this time, wounding on 4s. Only 1.
5+ save. No, not this time, so a Gut Ripper will take a wound. Not enough to put him down though, so 6 attacks back from the Gut Rippers on 4s, getting 4 hits this time. And wounding on 4s, getting 3.
3+ saves. Made 2, so she takes a wound, she's down to 5.
And just Lyria left for the Vindictors.
2 attacks hitting on 3s. Oh, she missed twice, she must be a bit rattled.
Yeah. 4 attacks from Morleck on 3s, getting 3. And wounding on 3s. Oh, he fails completely. Can Knight-Biter finish the job? On 4s, getting a single hit. Wounds on a 4. He does this time.
3+ save. Made that.
This time the stalemate's on the left. 1 wound apiece on the right. Back to Borea.
On 3s, hits 3 times once again, and 4s, just the 1 again.
5+ save. No, so a Gut Ripper is killed. Only 4 attacks from Murkai and Friend. 2 hits. On 4s to wound, nothing at all.
Now Lyria, she hits once and she wounds on 3. Nope.
And Morleck strikes back. 4 attacks on 3s with 3 hits. And 3s to wound. He managed 1 this time.
3+. Yep, she's fine.
And Knee Biter on 4s gets 2 hits. And wounds on 4s, getting a wound.
3+. Yes.
We're straight back around to Borea.
Who misses twice and then wounds on a 4. Nope.
4 attacks from the Gut Rippers. 3 hits. And 4s to wound. 2 wounds.
3s. Nope, takes another wound.
Down to 4 on Borea.
Lyria's turn. She hits twice this time and wounds twice.
2 3+ saves from Morleck. He failed both. He's down to 2. He can't roll 3s at all this game. Can he? Can he wound the Vindictor? He gets 4 hits. And wounding on 3s. 1 wound on. Come on. 1 wound.
Nope.
Save. So Knee Biter gets a hit. Wounds on a 4. It's cocked, so I'll reroll that again. It went out of the box. No. Try and get it in the box. No. After all that. Looks like Lyria might be able to pull out a victory on the left. Still fairly equal on the right.
Back to Borea, who misses 3 times.
4 attacks from the Gut Rippers. 2 hits. And 4s. Nothing.
And Lyria, she hits once and wounds.
Come on, still can't make a save. Morleck. 4 attacks on 3s, getting 2. And 3s. 2 wounds. Come on.
2 3+ saves. Oh, takes a wound.
Or can Knee Biter finish her off? This is a great deed for a stab drop. 2 hits. 4s. 1 wound.
Oh, 3+.
Oh. So we're on the razor's edge on the left. Still stalemate on the right.
Borea Starfang hits twice this time. Can she wound? No.
Gut Rippers. Hit 4 times. Wounding on 4s. Getting 3 wounds.
3+ saves. Oh, she takes 2 wounds. She's down to 2.
Going to pull out a lead. Can Lyria finish off Morleck?
Only hits once. Does wound.
Oh, 3+. Yes! He just about lives. 4 attacks on 3s. Getting 4 hits. And wounding on 3s. He's improving. He's up to 2 wounds.
3+ saves. Oh, made them.
Come on, Knee Biter, finish her off. 2 hits. 4s. No! Back around to Borea.
Who, 2 hits. Can she wound on 4s? Oh, 2 wounds this time.
Good lord. 5s to save. Save 1, so still got 2 Gut Rippers left. 1's on 1 wound. 4 attacks on 4s. 3 hits. And 4s. 2 wounds.
3s. Oh, takes another wound.
Oh, she's down to 1.
Lyria hits only once and wounds on a 3. Nope.
Oh. Can Morleck finish her off? 3 hits. 3s to wound. Good lord, they're all 3 wounded.
And, fail to save.
Oh, so that is just enough to finish off Lyria. So Morleck can breathe a sigh of relief as he's almost taken down there. That would have been embarrassing. Can Borea finish off the Gut Rippers or will they finish her off?
3s. We all hit. 4s. All 2 wounds.
2 5+ saves. Made 1, so just Murkai left. 2 attacks on 4s. Oh, he missed. Now Morleck's just going to sit out and cheer Murkai on as we're back to Borea.
She hits once and does a wound.
5+, made it. Murkai's always reliable for saves. 2 attacks on 4s, 1 hit. 4s to wound, no.
Borea again. Hits 3 times, wounds on 4s, 1.
5+, no. Murkai's down to 1 wound. Can he finish her off with 1 hit? That doesn't wound. Well, so as it stands, got 1 wound apiece on the right, but Borea gets to attack first.
3 attacks. Missed 3 times.
2 attacks hitting on 4, missed as well. Both getting tired.
Borea again. Alright, hits 3 times this time. 4s, 2.
Oh, need to make both of these. No, you failed both, so Murkai is taken down. And so we're left with both of the heroes, both on 1 wound. But we'll have to refer to the magazine of what to do now. On the back page we have results to refer to for each side if each side gets a victory, but since the Vindictors and the Gut Rippers are both dead, it's actually a draw. And in fact both heroes are both so heavily wounded, I think they would both slink off at this point. So I think we'll actually leave it there. We could do another game and let the Kruleboss go first, but I think it would have much similar results. And I don't think anything will be as close, we'll get anything quite as close again. So a bit of a short one possibly today, but we'll recap that for you now. Well, that was the game for issue 3 of Warhammer Age of Sigmar Stormbringer magazine. Well, how did you think that went?
I think it took longer than perhaps it could have done, because we both managed to roll spectacularly badly at times.
Yeah, we didn't contrive to end with both heroes on a wound, it just happened that way, but I don't think, hopefully in future games, neither of them will roll so badly.
Yeah, I think the Vindictors did particularly well, or perhaps the Kruleboss did particularly badly with his save rolls, and, well, actually his attack rolls.
I think he forgot to wear his armour and brought his rubber axe for this game.
Because he killed one instantly and then spent the rest of the game fighting the other one, who very nearly killed him. And then Borea Starfang didn't do very well either. With her 3+ save, I think she should have beaten the Gut Rippers in this game, because it's exactly the same as the previous issue, except that she had a better save. And she won both the games in the previous issue reasonably convincingly. So she actually did the worst, I think, of the 3 runs, even though she had a better save this game.
And I suppose it does go to show that even with these more basic versions of the rules, the heroes still pull out against the regular troops. And we get to see Knight-Biter in action with his shiv.
Yeah.
Although I don't think he did any damage.
No. But it's fun to have him there. He's characterful. I would have thought the Kruleboss probably could take on more than 2 Vindictors normally.
Yeah.
Even in this game, to be honest. If he didn't roll so badly, but
yeah, I mean, I do think it's pretty much harder for the Vindictors to win, just because they have fewer wounds. I mean, at least the 3 Gut Rippers have 6 wounds to Borea's 6.
Yeah.
And considering the boss has more attacks as well with Knight-Biter.
It's 4 attacks and 4 wounds versus 6 wounds and 7 attacks, I guess, technically. So, yes, perhaps they did particularly well, really.
Well, I suppose we should talk about the Vindictors. I do really like these models. I think as the Stormcast range has developed, I've liked them more and more. The initial run were all a bit dumpy. I think it's just the huge shoulder pads made them look much wider than they would be, whereas the Vindictors here seem better proportioned. They got much better poses as well. Even though these are pushed together models, I really like the poses.
I've always said about the Stormcast that I didn't really like the sort of faceless look, but when you make a better model out of it, it does seem to improve it somewhat.
Yes, I think it is just the smaller shoulder pads, I think, that make it work. Maybe they're a little bit taller. Maybe certainly the male ones are a bit less hench, not quite as burly. Something about these ones works. Maybe the shield designs as well.
And I just like the fact they have spears as well, actually.
It's nice to see some spear representation.
Yeah.
It's always the same with fantasy. It's always swords, maybe axes if you're lucky, possibly hammers as well in some settings. Never spears. Time we had spears. And we even get some halberds later on. Good fantasy pole arms.
Yeah. And the unit as a whole looks quite good together as well. I quite like the banner as well. And it's nice they've introduced Warscrolls so early. Warscrolls are obviously very important because they do contain all the information you need about a given unit. Obviously, we don't have all the information about these units yet, but introducing the concept with a simplified one is quite good. It means that we're not relying on them reading through large quantities of tutorial in order to find out what dice rolls we need to make. It's actually all there straight away from issue 3. I think that's quite good.
Yeah, and you can just glance at them to have all the information you need.
I think I'm liking the pace of this so far. I feel like we've got enough rules to make it interesting, but not too many if you're brand new that you'd be confused at this point, hopefully.
I mean, there's a little bit of an oddity that we've learnt. We're actually learning about combat before moving, which is an interesting choice, but it seems to work. And it does have I like that they have results for a draw in the outcome as well. Makes it all a little bit more flavourful.
Yes, it was a little bit odd in a way that there were 2 separate fights going on, and when one finished, the other just sort of spectated. In a real game, obviously, you wouldn't necessarily do that.
Yeah, otherwise, I don't think there's too much more to say about the Vindictors or this game or this issue. So, as always, if you like this content, do leave a like and subscribe. If you're getting the magazine as well, let us know how you've been getting on. We've been the Tabletop Donkeys, and we'll see you in the next one.
Bye for now.